The King's Speech is a curious, antiquated, costly thing. It's a bit like a sort of antiquated press release in some ways to explain the government's agenda. But you get quite a lot of detail on the day that the King's Speech comes out so that journalists and others can see the direction of travel for the government. So here it is. Here are all the 40 bills. That's not the highest number of bills in a King's Speech, but it is up there, which is consistent with it being a new government wanting to change direction. Now, there are lots of headings that they've helpfully supplied, and you can see these are the ways that this government wants you to understand the way they're going to carry out reforms. So lots on growth, lots on green energy and Great British Energy, security, opportunity, health and national security. So those are the kinds of stories they want to tell. But to be honest, if you break it down, there are lots of different ways that you can really interpret this King's Speech. One of the fascinating things is just how different it is compared to the kind of King's Speech that you would have had under a Conservative government, under perhaps Rishi Sunak if he was there. Look at all these ones highlighted, these bills highlighted in yellow: planning and infrastructure, employment, passenger railway stories, better buses. All of these highlighted here in some way mark an increase in the role of the state, in the role of government in people's lives. Those are the hallmarks of it being a Labour King's Speech rather than something that you would see under the Conservatives. Now, one of the things you get with a King's Speech is a sense of what they're prioritising and what the new government is actually putting in the slow lane. And one of the ways that you can see that is by seeing which bills actually have this word, draft, in front of them. And you can see key things that the government has talked about, including during the election campaign, such as the draft leasehold bill, draft equality bill and the draft conversion practices bill, are all marked down as draft bills, meaning that there's going to take some time before they can become law. There'll be lots of consultation, clearly a difficult area, and they're not going to rush. Now, we do get quite a lot of detail, but we also get some of the bills, and this is curious and this is unusual, that Rishi Sunak was going to introduce, whether it was Martin's Law to force local authorities to carry out assessments if there's a terrorist attack, the Renters' Rights Bill, well, that's back because it wasn't passed under Michael Gove and the Conservatives, the draft conversion practices and the Tobacco and Vapes Bill, the ban on people smoking if they were born after 2009. They're all back. Now, let's look at some of the details of some of the key things that this government wants to introduce. Now, this is all the detail that we've been given today on the planning and infrastructure bill. And you can see just how this government wants to speed up house building. So they're going to try and make the process for delivering key bits of infrastructure easier. They're going to make it easier for the government and local authorities to compulsory purchase things. They're going to improve local decision-making and increase the number of planning inspectors that local authorities have access to. But one of the curiosities of this, people were expecting there to be a mandatory housing target, or at least legislation for a mandatory housing target. Now, I'm told that that wasn't ever coming here. That will appear in the National Policy Planning Framework, which the government will announce in the next couple of weeks or so before the end of term, and they'll consult on that over the summer. So that's where that key thing that you might have read about as being in the King's Speech, it's not, it is coming in the next few weeks. Now let's look at this. This is possibly the most controversial thing in the King's Speech. It's the Employment Rights Bill. It's the thing that's going to give workers more right, trade unions. It's going to roll back some of the restrictions on them. And you can see just how many different things that there's got, whether it's parental leave, sick pay, banning exploitative zero-hours contracts. But you can see just how radical this could be. Look at this single thing called a fair pay agreement. This is a return to collective bargaining in one sector, just one sector in the UK, and that's adult social care. Let me explain what that means. In other words, you could end up, and what's likely to happen, is that the social care sector get a higher minimum wage than the statutory, the legal one at the moment, across the whole of the social care sector. That would be pretty transformatory. I think businesses are looking very closely to see whether it goes beyond social care, but that's just one of the measures I think that businesses are quite concerned about and will be watching closely. Now look at this, something we heard from Labour quite a lot. Gordon Brown was certainly into one of Keir Starmer's predecessors, was reform of the House of Lords. And here we have a bill to do exactly that. It's called the House of Lords Hereditary Peers Bill. But look at this. What will it do? It will simply remove the 100 or so people who were born into being able to sit in the House of Lords because of the family that they are part of. What there isn't are the bigger reforms to the House of Lords, like introducing an age limit or even scrapping it altogether. This is sort of a holding bill. The rest of that is quite parked. Indeed, it is interesting because here you have all the bills that we saw at the start, but there are things missing. There's nothing, for instance, here on social care. There were rumours maybe of a commission on social care. I'm told that's not ready. That might not even be the route that they go down. Nothing here in order to introduce votes at 16 and 17, something that Keir Starmer talked about on the election campaign trail. That will come in a later King's speech. So today, Sophie, we got the priorities for growth, some controversial areas, but Keir Starmer hoping that over the next 18 months or so, this provides a full-packed programme in order to start to change Britain in the direction that he wants to see.